Check it. Check your resume. I've been to Scout
The city of Prairie is now back from executive session. Ms. Johnson, would you call the roll from the quorum, please?
Councilor Rowland.
Present. Here.
Councilman Jones.
Here.
Councilwoman Williams.
Here.
Councilman Wallace.
Here. Thank you, ma'am. Item 5. Oh, we're back from executive session, but no action. Am I in order, council? No action from executive session, for the record?
I don't know.
Okay, council, what's council's pleasure after executive session?
I move that we don't approve the mayor appointment for chief, for interim chief.
Second.
Okay, item 5, discuss and take action on the appointment of interim chief, and the mayor recommended Matt Ross, and the motion is to deny that appointment, am I correct? Clarification for the record. Okay, you've heard the motion, ready for the questions?
Question. I read it.
Unreadiness, go ahead, Councilman Jones.
Due to some of the things that we feel as though have been taking place with our police department, we felt as though, as a council, that this was a time and a need to kind of move in a different direction. And if our police officers were not adequate enough to be in this position, then maybe they shouldn't be a part of our police staff, because I know sports is always the next man up. And so that's why we made the decision which we did.
Unreadiness, Councilman Rowland.
My unreadiness is that just for edification of information for citizens, we do have 7 applicants for the police chief, and our interim chief Ross is one of those applicants, and so we felt by getting another interim chief who is not one of the applicants for the police chief's job will give us better clarity on moving forward for the health, safety, and welfare of our community.
And we also made other recommendations, but couldn't agree.
Any other unreadiness? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed have the same right? Ayes have it. Item 6, discuss and possible action on approving an ordinance for departmental reports to be placed on the city council agenda. Councilman Rowland.
Mr. Mayor. Thank you, council. We've been working on this ordinance for some time, but I have a couple concerns, and then we're going to move this to the next agenda. I have been working with Attorney Zach. He sent me some updates on this. The reason why I want to bring to everyone's attention, if you look at ordinances section 1.50, it goes through 1.58, and the changes we're making is not just to the ordinance on departmental reports, and I want to bring that to everybody's attention. There's 4 other sections in there that is connected, and I wanted to make sure that everybody sees that. We approved January 23rd, 2018 with Attorney Kerwin. We approved 3 of these ordinance changes already that I just found, and I want us to make sure that we're not duplicating, because with Attorney Kerwin, we updated like the time we met, what the special meeting was, what was the required meeting, and that is all in 1.50. And so I just want to, I'm just saying that if council please look at this, and then we move this to the next agenda.
Is that a motion?
That's a motion.
It's been properly moved and seconded that item 6, discussion and possible action on approving an ordinance for departmental reports be placed on the next city council agenda. You've heard the motion, ready for the question? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed have the same right. Let the record show it's unanimous. Item 7, discuss, consider, and take action on building procedures related to fuel max. Councilman Wallace.
So once again, I want to appreciate Ms. Rogers for coming up here and giving us this the sheet of the last project activity, which also has fuel max on there. My question, even though it's pretty simple, I still have a question. So I had citizens come because there were some major trees that were chopped down in creation of clearing the land for the fuel max. So my question lies environmentally. Are there any procedures in terms of the environment in which builders have to relate to or rely on whenever clearing land?
Well, it's my understanding that because of that being such a small area, the environmental impact was considered little to none. The only thing that came back was the stormwater flow direction, things of that nature. But when someone buys the property, it becomes personal property, and they bought it for the gas station and the Checkers restaurant that has been known out there for at least a year. So them knocking it down was not a surprise, but not much to be done about it on private property.
Yeah, and it's more so talking about the procedure and the process of it. So as you said, little to no environmental impact. Who makes that determination? Do they do an environmental study or?
On such a small project, no.
So
The engineer's report dealt with water flow and if it was going to interfere with something like that, but an environmental study is not required. Yes, Councilman Jones.
No gas tanks have been placed in the ground right now.
Correct. I think they just recently applied for their permit and it's got to go through the process Ms. Rogers shared and all the different departments, approvals and engineers and even their people up near Dallas.
Two questions, Ms. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
You said no gas tanks have been put in. What happened to the two big holes that the gas tank was supposed to go in that is covered up? I mean, and who from the city would verify that? So I know you're saying it hasn't happened, but who's physically went on the grounds? Because there were two large holes where they were supposed to be, and now those holes are covered up. And they could not be in there, but who's physically done it? Have you or someone who represents the city's done that? Or engineer or somebody?
Well, being that I pass there every day, 3 or 4 times a day, and the holes that you're referring to were simply holes that were created by a couple of the very large trees that were uprooted.
Okay. Mr. Mayor?
Councilman
I sent you a letter in reference to some questions in the fuel max, so Councilman Wallace, thank you for putting this on the agenda. In your responses, Mr. Mayor, in reference to this process, simply all I ask is that we have transparency as we move forward. Which engineering firm is actually doing this project for the city? Because then I have
Mr. Underwood, are you guys on the Fuel Max or is that LJA?
We did a plat review for that property.
So I want to say Trilogy is involved. I know they did, like you say, the plat, but
That's right.
I'm not sure. I'd have to check.
Okay. The reason why I asked that.
Either Trilogy or LJA Engineering.
I think both, and that's probably my problem. The replat was done by Trilogy, but LJA was did the plan review. And I wanted to ask you what were some of the things that LJA gave back in reference to what this company needed to do to be able to get it approved. Because I think both LJA and Trilogy came up with some similar things as far as the replat and some of the things that needed to happen, which needed to come before council.
Which items needed to come before council specifically?
So in a replat, that's not, that you have to put together a committee and that does the replat. That is it's another committee that Attorney Zach referenced to you in the email. So all this stuff is in the email. But what I'm simply saying is that I just wanted to make sure that if there was an email that was sent in our packets today from Ms. Cortez, but that was an email that was put in our packets, not sent, in reference to where we're at with the fuel max. And so again, so we have a clear process. Bureau Veritas have the plan review, an engineering firm has looked at the water, wastewater, all the lines. And so for the citizens who think that they're developing and they may not, we just trying to get clarity so everybody can be on the same page. Right now, does the fuel max or the checkers have the right to develop, put any lines or put anything in the ground at this moment?
It depends on what it is. In private property, what are you referring to specifically? When you ask do they have the right, you're getting into legality,
No,
so
sir.
you may want to direct that to
Not the
council.
right, I'm asking to the chief administrator, which is the mayor,
Yes,
in
sir.
reference to have the fuel max and the checkers gone through our total development checklist that Bureau Veritas has and responded to all the actions from the engineer about the replat and or any other changes that have come back to the city that would then have been issued a permit for them to start work. So right now, have we given them a permit to start work?
They do not have a permit. If you look at 1, 2, 3, item 4, which was pointed out to us earlier by Ms. Rogers, it says Fuel Max 47- Shell Building, plan review passed 6/21/2019, and they're moving on to the next phase. So that's where they are. You got the update right in front of you.
So what is?
Now, are you familiar with the minor plat? You mentioned they need a replat. Are you familiar with the minor plat?
What is the difference between a replat and a minor plat, Mr. Mayor?
Well, you've got a minor plat is not considered something that may have to come before council or not. We want to check that out.
So in our ordinance, I mean, again, please show me the ordinance where it doesn't, where a replat, whether an engineer calls it major or minor, that is besides the process. So I don't have any issue with what the decision is, Mr. Mayor. I'm just simply asking, where are we currently at in the process? Because the company is trying to move forward in the project, and as councilmen, we want to be able to communicate to the city where we're at with the development on that project.
Well, on page 1, item 4, you see where they are in the project. And this is what Ms. Rogers gave us. And you also see what I had Ms. Cortez send so that I could print and I copied you on. So you've got their total status of the project in front of you, council. I'm not sure what you're asking. You have everything that they have and are trying to do in front of you.
So the reason why they haven't gotten approval from the civil engineer is that because they have not done all the things listed in their report. And
The Board of Adjustments, I shared and Councilman Jones agreed to pick up on, and it's actually one of the upcoming subsequent items on the agenda, I believe. And the Board of Adjustments, as you referenced in the email, is being set up, and that's something that we're going to do next. We're going to carry out the actual appointments to the Board of Adjustments to the next meeting. But that's the only major scenario. They're going through the process. They put in their application for installing gas tanks, so all the environmental inspection, TCEQ, and all those other issues are currently being addressed, but they just submitted that paperwork, like within the last couple of days, if not today, maybe Friday.
thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mhm.
Councilman Wallace, this was your item. You have any
No, that's
questions?
it. City council report.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to put a motion on the floor, please.
Councilman Randall.
I move that we move items 8 through 15 to above city council reports.
Second.
It's been moved, item 8 through, which one? Okay, items 8 through 15, it's been moved that items 8 through 15 be moved prior to city council reports. You've heard the motion, ready for the questions?
Question.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed have the same right? Ayes have it. Item 8, discuss and take action on Mayor Allen's appointment of Allison Bynum as city secretary. Ms. Bynum, would you come to the podium, please? Council has your resume and information in front of them since last week and another copy this week. How are you doing?
Hello.
And residents. Okay.
You mind just introducing yourself?
My name is Allison Bynum, and I'm from Cypress, Texas.
Council, you have any questions for Mr. Bynum? Yes, Councilman Wallace?
First, hello, Ms. Bynum. It's a pleasure seeing you. My question, so one thing that our attorneys always tell us is that we need to have people within our department that knows how to do things in terms of like writing ordinances, resolutions. Would you have any experience in that department?
I don't have a lot of experience in writing ordinances or resolutions, but I have worked with them within the school district.
Okay, and working with, so more so you haven't put them together, but you've worked with ordinances, resolutions?
Well, I
that-
worked with the department that puts them together.
And may I ask what role did you play in that?
I am the administrative assistant for the director, and I work with her in that role.
How do you deal with conflict?
Oh, very easy. I deal with conflict by talking. I don't get upset, I don't raise my voice. I do about 50 contracts a day, and each vendor comes back with something different, and it's a lot of conflict just within that, trying to get their contract through our legal department. So I talk it through with them, I listen to what they have, I go back to legal, I may go back and forth 10, 20 times within 1 week until we resolve what they need.
And so do you ever feel overwhelmed?
No, I'm a person right now who wears many hats.
Have you had the opportunity to speak with our lovely interim assistant,
Yes, I
Ms.
have.
Johnson?
Yes, I have.
Good evening.
Good evening.
One, do you live within Waller County,
No, I do not.
outskirts or
Okay.
hour away, 30?
Oh, no.
Oh,
I'm just right at, almost you can say the border. I'm right at Cypress.
So you're
That's all I need to
Yes.
know. I just-
Okay.
Question?
So I had a,
Oh, go ahead.
yeah, I was just making, because we were here late, driving home, we just want to be mindful of that. Second question, coming on as our city, would be as a city secretary, obviously you know the role of what it would take to be a city secretary. How long do you think it would take you to kind of get up to speed in some of the basic things that a city secretary does, right? So our city secretary is responsible for keeping up the minutes of official records of the city, and you'll have Ms. Johnson here to support you. But how long do you think your transition period it would take you to?
I don't believe it would take no more than a month. I'm very hands-on, so just coming here to this meeting tonight, being invited, I've learned a lot. and I've taken notes before.
That may or may not be a good thing.
No, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. This to me is something I'm looking forward to. It's nothing that I cannot handle.
So, my last question is for JJ. Do we know, or Mr. Mayor, was there an amount set, or are we still negotiating the amount on this particular position?
No, we're at 40,000.
40? Okay. That's all I needed. Thank you.
Councilman Randall?
Anybody got any other questions?
Well, not a question, but I just want to commend you and thank you for coming on board. There should be a lot of highs, few lows, hopefully. But thank you so much for coming on board and being willing to help us and fill a need and a void, so that way we can move the city in the best direction, and then Ms. Johnson can feel right at home as she has. So thank you.
My question would be for you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
I guess this is a two-part question. You got another question?
Yeah, it had to do with money, but I'll wait. I want to ask JJ.
Well, you better ask yours. I'm about to.
Oh, well, yeah, it's not, in reference to money, JJ, we heard the number. Is that kind of baseline on what we've looked at for the last three city secretaries? Is that high, low, in the middle? And have we?
That's a comfortable salary.
Okay.
So, for the secretary position.
Mr. Mayor, how many applicants do we receive total?
For the third?
No, it was more like maybe as many as a dozen.
But you say you narrowed it down to 30, right?
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah, it was real easy to narrow down because we had a lot of people who literally had no experience. Many folks who had no stability in a particular area. So looking at the skills, and I had Judge Alexander Simmons assist me with that as well, and we basically came back with the same conclusion.
So through your vetting process, you selected Mrs. Bynum to be #1 candidate?
Yes, sir.
All right, so I move that we approve the appointment of Allison Bynum as the city secretary.
Second.
It's been properly moved that Allison Bynum be approved as the city secretary. You've heard the motion. Ready for the questions?
Question.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Can we have a show of hands just to confirm where we are?
Present.
You got some aye right there.
Okay, so
Aye.
let the record show it's unanimous. Okay,
Thank you, Ms. Bynum.
thank you, Ms. Bynum.
Thank you.
Welcome to Prairie.
Welcome to.
And Your Honor, if I might point out, along with that, you just got yourself a city treasurer too.
Okay, discuss and take action on setting up a board of adjustments and schedule meeting, and that was me adding it. But Counselor, what did you say we need to do next? Just
Okay, yeah, so.
carry over the appointments?
Yeah, it does already exist in your ordinances, and it complies with the state statute. So if you want to put that on the next agenda with actually some recommended appointments for the city council to consider for approval, then you can get your board up and running again.
Yeah, I wanted, like for all of us, I guess, to send names to the mayor. That's why they suggest names. Yeah,
So,
Send a name to.
the mayor.
Okay.
One of us can send a name. Each of us can send one name.
I mean, so when we look ahead at the agenda, we talk about item 10. I mean, we've discussed that since there is no charter committee, I think minus the mayor, I think those people would be there. If you'd be willing to make that appointment for them, because
No,
Because that needs to be,
so some of these people can't.
that the position of the Board of Adjustments and Appeals is that is the deciding factor when they don't like the decision from planning and zoning.
some of these people are on planning and zoning.
Right. And they can't be on both.
Right, I got you.
Okay, well, I'll take a look at that, so no problem.
So I have a question.
Go ahead, Councilor Randall.
How many people are on the board?
It's 5 and 2 alternates.
5 people. Okay. Thank you.
And so you say you wanted to schedule a meeting?
We have to make the appointments before we schedule the meeting.
Okay, so we'll wait. Item 10, discuss and consider Mayor Allen's appointments to City Charter Commission. It says appointments twice.
We've already disposed
Yeah,
of that.
on, the meeting minutes, on the 28th it talks about the action that was rescinded, to have a charter committee, so you have appointments, and there's no committee in the first place.
Well, this was actually, and maybe because of the hour, but there were people on the committee who asked to be put. If you notice, the speakers start with Ms. Gwen Carter and end with myself. So this is not on me, this is at the request of residents, but we can pass through it tonight since they're not here, so.
Well, even at that, we've already tabled this motion, and so
Well, if residents ask to be on the agenda,
they can speak on it and
no, they can speak on it. If they ask me to be on the agenda and I put on the agenda, they can speak at that time.
Even if they are on the agenda, the item would be worded
differently, right?
Okay.
It wouldn't be worded as consider and take action, it would be discussion over
Okay.
whatever, but this would be the agenda item.
Okay, no problem. Okay, item 11,
Consider taking action.
discuss, consider, and take action on the status of the building official.
I thought a time ago we had passed this, but it seems like every time we talk about it, we say that we either stuck somewhere, or that it's not a rolling process, or that the $10,000 was still there, or that the contract hasn't been signed, done. So I just wanted an update of where we were at today, and then to ask council, since we did approve for there to be 2 months paid for a building official, why hasn't that already taken place?
As I recall, there needed to be a 2-month piece incorporated into the contract, and Attorney Zach was checking on that. That's the only thing we were waiting on.
Okay,
So we just need to know that, because Bureau Veritas proposed a contract, it didn't have a particular time frame, and if our funds are limiting us to 2 months, we want to know if they'd be willing to do it for a 2-month trial period or something like that. Then we pay into the budget cycle and we can see how it's working.
Okay, and I would say that at your next city council meeting, we do need to have an amendment to the Bureau Veritas contract to begin with regarding the state legislation on the building permit fees.
On the square feet, yes.
On the square feet. So if you would like us to bring back an additional amendment regarding this and the $10,000 for a temporary 60-day period of time.
Yes, that would be
Okay,
great.
yeah, I wasn't aware that it was in our court, basically.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
In reference to that, so before us in our packet, we should have, or we should have had the scope of service in the contract for what we're talking about, the building official. I know we approved already for the 2 months temporary, but one of the questions that's continuously to come up is what will Bureau Veritas be doing in addition to being the building official? And when you look at the contract from the standard contract from 2015, like that process of what they do anyway overlaps into what we're saying we want the building official to do, which means that they're doing, we've already kind of paying them for half this work. The question was, and I know for us it was more of we wanted someone to point to as someone in charge as far as a building official, but the only thing that we currently, if you look at the sheet, it says apply knowledge of building codes, policies, and procedures to day-to-day functions of building department. Assist process applicants inquiry and notification regarding city zoning ordinances, permit fees, and submittal documents and permitting. That process is being handled by Ms. Cortez. Processing of permits to include coordination with city departments and consultant. That process is currently happening with Ms. Cortez. Coordination of plan review of new residential and commercial projects, answering calls and returning calls. That project is Ms. Cortez. And so the only thing that we hope that, again, in this the 60 days or 2 months of what we're gonna get from Bureau Veritas, we wanna be able to make sure that we can differentiate between what our current city staff is doing and the added value of having them as the official building official instead of bringing someone else in for that same amount of money. That's just
Well,
my own.
The only reason Ms. Cortez is handling that, and Ms. Johnson can attest, Ms. Cortez was in my office no less than 3-4 times today. Ms. Cortez does not know what needs to be done. She's doing her best. We work through it because until council gives us what we need, like a professional, Ms. Cortez is doing the best she can, but we're running into issues. Some of the things that council requests is because people like me, Ms. Cortez or Ms. Johnson, are trying to struggle through getting it done. So she's not really doing it. She's doing her best to help us get through it. But we do not have a professional. One of the things that will also be taking place based on item 12 is getting with Trilogy Engineering, should council confirm them, their appointment as our city engineer, because there are things that we need a building official to do that none of us even have an idea. The planning and zoning functions, identifying the requisite properties that are within the required 200 feet for notifications and getting those things out. Those are some of the things that Attorney Zek and I discussed in having a building official help us with. So it's a lot more than what they're looking at. We just have to incorporate it to have them or someone do those things that we're lacking in. Councilman Randall.
So just for clarification, I think there were 2 points that Councilman Rowland touched on, and I think you hit on basically the things that Ms. Cortez is currently doing. Once this is approved, she will no longer be doing, correct?
Correct.
So then there's the other side of the coin that he said that Bureau Veritas will be doing as the building officials that they're already doing in their current capacity, right? And so I guess I would make a recommendation that since you've already vetted those documents, that you could kind of create a thread between the mayor, Attorney Zek, and then Bureau Veritas to kind of get that consolidated, so we're not going to get billed twice for the same object. Well, I think that's something that we can kind of correct offline.
Yeah, and
Since
let's,
you've already,
and let's include, because I like that, and let's include Trilogy or an engineering firm.
right, absolutely.
Because that's one of the things attorneys that share with me. They've been great from legal counsel, but they're not engineers, and some of the things that need to be done.
Right, only reason why I said include attorneys is because I know it's contractual.
Oh, yes.
So the contractual aspects of it, they can look at, and then we can put that information together and we can get the contract to be suitable.
Councilman Roll, will you agree to take the lead on that?
I sure will.
Okay, all right. Does council need a motion, or no? Y'all trust Councilman Roll? Okay, all right. Item 12, discuss and take action on the appointment of Trilogy Engineering as city engineer. Mr. Underwood,
Yes, sir.
please take the podium, please. How are you doing this evening?
Yes, sir. I'm doing great. How are you?
Good, good. Council has Trilogy